For over a century, we blamed a cow, like an actual cow. Think about that for a second. A fire that killed 300 people, left 100,000 homeless, literally erased 3 square miles of Chicago, and we decided, yeah, it was definitely the cow. The story goes like this. Mrs. O'Leary was milking her cow at night. The cow got annoyed, kicked over a lantern, and boom, Chicago goes up in flames. The reporter who wrote it, he made it up, just invented it. And then 50 years later went, oh yeah, my bad, I totally lied about that. But by then, Mrs. O'Leary's life was already destroyed. And the real story, the actually interesting story, got buried under a pile of cow jokes. Because here's the twist. The guy everyone thought was a hero, the one who supposedly saved people and animals, his story makes 0 sense, like physically impossible levels of nonsense. His name was Daniel Sullivan. Everyone called him Pegleg because, well, he had one leg, and I'm about to show you why Pegleg might have been the one who actually burned down Chicago. Stick around, this gets wild. This city was absolutely booming. In 1840, 4,000 people. By 1871, 334,000. It was the railroad hub connecting the East Coast to the Wild West. Everything flowed through Chicago, lumber, grain, livestock, you name it. Money was pouring in, buildings were going up everywhere, and here's the problem. Everything was made of wood, like everything. Even the supposedly fireproof buildings were basically wood buildings wearing a brick costume. Oh, and the lumber yards, you know, the places where they stored mountains of freshly cut, super dry timber, right in the middle of the city, just sitting there like a giant campfire waiting for a match. The summer of 1871 was the driest on record. From July to October 8th, only about 3.7 inches of rain fell. The last real rain, July 3rd, so for 3 months, no rain. In a city made of wood, by 1870, Chicago was having 2 fires per day. The night before the big fire, on Saturday, October 7th, there was a massive fire that destroyed 4 city blocks. The firefighters worked all night putting it out. Sunday morning, they finally collapsed into their bunks, completely wiped out. Most of them are passed out when the alarm comes in. Another barn fire, DeKoven Street. They were so tired of barn fires. This one? Yeah, this one was going to be different. Now let me introduce you to Catherine O'Leary, because she deserves better than what history did to her. Catherine was born in Ireland in 1827, grew up during the potato famine. You know that time when 1 million Irish people starved to death because all their potatoes rotted? Not exactly a great childhood. So, like millions of others, she got on a boat to America, met a guy named Patrick O'Leary, Civil War veteran, fought for the Union, and they got married. They saved up $500, that's their entire life savings, and they bought a tiny property at 137 DeKoven Street on Chicago's west side. Little wooden cottage. They lived in half, rented out the other half to help pay bills. Behind the house, they had a barn with 5 cows and a horse. Catherine ran a small dairy business. She'd wake up crazy early, like 4 a.m. early, milk the cows, and then walk around the neighborhood selling milk door to door. Just grinding it out every single day. Honest work, hard work, the American dream kind of stuff. By October 1871, she's 44 years old. She and Patrick have 5 kids. They're doing okay. Not rich, but making it work. And she's about to become the most hated woman in America. Sunday evening, Catherine went to bed early that night, around 8:30. Her foot was hurting. She was tired from the week, just wanted to rest. Around 9 p.m., Patrick shakes her awake. "Kate, the barn's on fire!" She runs outside in her nightgown. The barn is completely engulfed in flames. Neighbors are already out there with buckets trying to stop it. But let me tell you what happened before that, because this is where it gets interesting. Inside that barn, 5 cows, a calf, a horse, a wagon, and about 2 tons of hay that hadn't seen rain in 3 months. Basically a pile of tinder with animals standing in it. The first person to spot the fire, Daniel Pegleg Sullivan. Sullivan was 25, had 1 leg. The story of how he lost the other one? Nobody really talks about it. Sullivan lived across the street about 200 feet from the O'Leary barn. According to Sullivan, he looks over toward the O'Leary property and sees flames. Now here's where his story starts sounding like a superhero movie. Sullivan says he immediately ran, hopped, opened the door, went inside the burning building, and started freeing the animals. He saved a calf, maybe 1 or 2 cows, depending on which version of the story you read. Then he hopped to the O'Leary house and banged on the door to wake up Patrick. That's his story. Remember it, we're coming back. By the time the O'Learys get outside, half the barn is gone. Flames are shooting 20, 30 feet into the air. And that wind, that absolutely insane 60-mile-per-hour wind, the fire doesn't spread, it explodes. It made spinning tornado-like funnels of flame. It sucked in air so fast that people standing far away felt the wind rush toward the fire. It launched flaming debris hundreds of feet into the air. Those burning embers didn't just drift, they flew like missiles. Flames leaped onto rooftops blocks away. People on the north side looked outside and saw fire falling from the sky. Eyewitnesses said it looked like rain, but glowing. Within minutes, it jumps to the barn behind the next house. Then another house. Then another. The wooden buildings are going up like they've been soaked in gasoline. One after another, and the worst part? The fire was heading toward the river. If it crossed, the whole city was gone. Someone runs to the nearest fire alarm box and pulls the handle. Nothing happens. The alarm doesn't go off at the courthouse where the fire watchman is supposed to be scanning the city. Broken wire. Malfunction. Just bad luck on top of bad luck. By the time someone actually runs to a firehouse to tell them in person, 20 minutes have passed. When the fire department finally shows up on DeKoven Street, the fire has already spread 6 blocks. The firefighters tried everything. They really did. But remember, they'd been up all night fighting that other fire. Their equipment was beat up. They were exhausted. They set up their steam-powered pumps, connected hoses, started pumping water. There was even a natural fire break ahead, and beyond that, the South Branch of the Chicago River. The plan was simple. The fire hits the river, it dies. Case closed. The wind was creating these things called fire devils, basically tornadoes made of fire. These spinning columns of superheated air were lifting burning debris hundreds of feet into the sky. Most people assume rivers stop fires. Not in Chicago. The river was covered in industrial waste, oils and fats from factories, and all of it was flammable. So the fire didn't just cross the river, it burned on top of it. People watched in shock as flames skated across the water like it was solid ground. Wooden bridges burst into flames instantly. Sparks jumped the river again, then again. Once it crossed the second time, nothing stood in its way. The courthouse, hotels, churches, banks, factories, all gone like matchsticks. The fire didn't care if you were rich or poor. It ate everything.